Holy smokes. Guys, welcome back for another episode of the Moreno Show. I hope you are feeling good. But you know what? If you're not, it's okay, because at least you are not CNN's Caitlin Collins, who literally got obliterated live on TV by President Trump, as well as President Bukele from El Salvador, as well as Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, and Marco Rubio, who literally tag teamed in their responses against Caitlin Collins' question, which was so absurd. It was regarding the person who has been allegedly deported by mistake. That's the story that this administration was dealing with as of recently. And today they tackled that question alongside El Salvador's President Bukele. So this is about it's almost a 5-minute clip, but honestly, every second of this is absolutely worth it. So we're going to watch the whole thing and then continue to talk about it. Also, guys, if you like having conversations like this, please consider liking and subscribing. It really, really does mean the world to me. Okay, check this out.
Return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported. The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane. So will you return him?
And you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the president could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world. And I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
it
Court is
to get it
asking
back?
to.
And
That
what was
was
the
the
ruling
ruling.
in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it per the court can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo
President
liberaría,
Bukele, what is
Presidente
can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I mean, Bush has suggested that I smuggle terrorists into the United States, right?
It's always
How can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? And that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal,
Yeah,
released into.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin, except for Venezuela that wasn't refusing to take people back or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
Holy smokes. I cannot believe it. I think one of my favorite parts is whenever President Bukele says, hold up, wait a minute. You want us to go back to being the murder capital of the world? We just did all this work to become one of the safest spaces in this part of the planet. That is absolutely crazy. What a response. What a moment coming from CNN's Caitlin Collins. I saw this from Heather Mullins. She says, can we just talk about how much of a disgrace it is to our country and to our president to have notorious liars in meetings and briefings like this? What a waste of valuable time and oxygen. Now, I don't know if I completely agree with what she is saying, but a lot of the sentiment online regarding this moment is about Caitlin Collins and whether or not she deserves to be in this room. And a question that I'd love to ask you, everyone who's watching, like, who do you think should replace her? If Caitlin Collins' days in the White House are numbered, and if her press pass is being, if there's a online talk about her press pass being revoked, who should replace her? All right, please let me know. This is from Gunther Eagleman. He says, should Caitlin Collins have her White House press pass revoked? Wow, this is crazy. This video went absolutely viral everywhere. I'm telling you, millions of views across the different posts. It is wild. And honestly, President Trump also, this wasn't the only question that she asked. She continued digging at President Trump, and President Trump literally got sick of it. He responds back to her saying, why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? That's why nobody watches you. Nick Sorto says that President Trump just demolished the CNN's Caitlin Collins. And honestly, everyone demolished Caitlin Collins today, I'm telling you.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no credibility. Please go ahead.
President Trump.
Oh my goodness. And guys, I wish that was all, but we also have this other moment, which is shared to us by Rapid Response, published from Fox News. This is a 3-second clip, but Caitlin Collins tries to get another question in moments after that previous clip where President Trump just says, no, not you. Checks out.
Question?
On terrorist
No, not you. Question?
That is so brutal. Oh my gosh, I gotta play it again.
On terrorist
No, not you.
My guy says, no, not you. And it just does that hand motion as if he's saying, like we're done here. All right, we've had enough of you, which is just absolutely insane, especially coming to us from Rapid Response page. You know, I have been thinking about this though. It looks like Rapid Response 47 has almost become what the Trump War Room tweet handle used to be during the election cycle. And I don't know if you guys like it. There's been a lot of critiques coming from the right as well, saying, I don't know if we need all of these kind of just these clips or these captions coming from an official White House page. Let me know what you think about it. Sometimes I like it. I think it's entertaining. Other times, maybe it's a little too entertaining. But I don't know. You let me know what you think about all that in the comment section. And please let me know what you thought about this entire conversation over there. And I think the broader question here is, how much control should a president have over the journalists or reporters who have these press passes? And is it a gift to be in that space? And should they actually treat it with some sense of courtesy, or should they kind of abuse this pass to ask some notorious questions, especially when a lot of these questions might be rooted in something other than truth? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I do think these are important questions to ask whenever we are attempting to elevate the conversation. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. If you like having conversations like this, please consider liking and subscribing. It really, really does mean the world to me. And let me know what you thought about all of this down below. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.